Alright guys, so we're going to try to do the best we can of me being in Pakistan, so I don't think anybody could really teach morphology, even though there's lots of people around who know Spanish well enough, but they don't know why. So I'm going to attempt to teach lessons through YouTube. And I hope you all enjoyed my test that I made for you. It's gonna be curved kind of, so don't, get too upset. I like to make things challenging to cause you to stretch, not cause you to panic, but anyhow. So today we're going to learn about past participles right here. And on this side of the board I have the context so that you get the overview of what I'm doing. And on this side of the board I have the essence of the lesson. So obviously this is the most important part for you to learn. And I will go on talking about this lengthily and from the book when we get there. But just so you can get a picture of the forest and see where we're at, you may remember that we've been talking about unconjugated verb forms, and I've said over and over that there's 3 unconjugated verb forms, and they are the infinitive, the gerund, and I've been saying that there's the past participle. Usually I just call it a participle, and I've said we're going to learn it. Well, today's the day. We're going to learn about past participles. Now, almost always I just call them participles because to say past participles is too lengthy for me. I'm too lazy. And the reason why they call them past participles is because the alternative name for the gerund is the present participle. And so they have the present participle and the past participle. I never call it by the present participle because it's too confusing, I think. So I just call it the gerund, different word, completely different. And so I'm hoping that helps you. So just as a remember, we're getting the context of what we're looking at. We're looking at number 3, but just to remind ourselves, what's the infinitive in Spanish? The infinitive in Spanish is when the verb ends AR, ER, IR. Now in English, an infinitive starts with the word to, like to eat, to learn, to study, to advance. That's an infinitive. But in Spanish, that to plus the verb word is signified with the ending AR, ER, I. And by the way, I've said this before, this is the form of the verb that shows up at the dictionary. This is our vocab. When I have a vocab test, I expect you to put it in infinitive because that's the way it shows up in the dictionary, okay? AR, ER, IR. Those are the 3 types of verbs we have. AR verbs, ER verbs, IR verbs. So that's our starting point. We always talk about the infinitive. We say, here's the conjugation for the AR verbs, here's the conjugation for the ER and IR verbs, etc. Okay? And then in there, we learned in Spanish 1 about the gerunds. Now the gerund in English is when the verb word takes on an ing. So eating, studying, learning, that's a gerund. So the ing in Spanish is ando. When it's an AR verb, it's yendo when it's an ER and IR verb, and it's yendo under certain circumstances. I'm not going to explain that now, but this one is rare. You can go back and look at the lessons of when you see this rare form. Usually it's going to be either this one, ando, or yendo. So you recognize these. You say ando, yendo, you say, oh, that's ing, that's a gerund. And so that's what you do. So we studied both of these in Spanish 1. We reviewed them in Spanish 2. And so today we're going to learn the 3rd and final unconjugated form, and that is the past participle. Now, for comparison purposes, the past participle in English usually ends in an ed. The same ending as the simple past tense, okay? But about 15% of the verbs in English, their past participle ends in en. So you don't have to know when and how. In English, it's the past participle ends in ed and when it ends in en, because you know it unconsciously. So for example, we have polished and we have mistake. Those are 2 examples. You just need to know this is a past participle or a participle, okay? So you see the ed, and not always, because it could be a simple past, right? But, some of the time, maybe about 40% of the time you see the ed, it's going to be a participle. You see the en, and you have to think, oh, participle. Okay, that's how you recognize it in English, okay? Now, so in English, we signify the past participle with an ed or an en ending. How do we do it in Spanish? This is the lesson for today, okay? In Spanish, with an AR verb, it's ADO, ado. That's the participle. And ER-IR verb is going to be IDO, I-D-O. That's going to be for ER and IR verbs. We're going to form the participle, adding ido to the end. And then, of course, there's irregulars. Just like in English, there's irregulars. We'll look at the irregulars later. Don't worry about it. Just be aware that there can be other forms that are neither ido, ado, or ido, and they're still participles. So we'll look at those later. Okay, so this is the, actually this should probably be over here because this is the lesson, okay? So the lesson today is we're going to look at participles and how they get used as adjectives, okay? So this is both English and Spanish. And so when they get used as adjectives in Spanish, they change from masculine to feminine and from singular to plural according to the noun that they're modifying. So remember, an adjective describes a noun or modifies a noun. So when you have one of these participles getting used as an adjective, it is going to follow the number and gender of the noun that it describes or modifies. Okay, so let's take an example. We have an example. This example comes straight out of the book, page 199. I'm sorry, 191. Let's just write that on the board. Page 191. I'm going to be reading. I've written 2 sentences from the book on the board, and the rest of the sentences I was too lazy to write them, but I will read them with you. Okay, so the first one is La ventana estaba. The book puts estaba, which is past tense. I put está, which is present tense. Okay, we're not focusing on past tense anymore. We're just focusing on the participle, this orange underline, cerrada. Okay, so you remember the verb cerrar means to close. So this means the window, ventana, is closed, cerrada. I'm seeing that I copied it wrong. The book says la ventana estaba cerrada. That means the window was closed. So I just made it present tense. So cerrada is my participle. Okay, so you see that I have my ending, but I took that O, which is masculine, and I made it feminine. Why? Because the noun that this adjective describes is feminine. So the window is feminine, and so the adjective that describes it must also be feminine. They both end in A. Okay? Good. Second example from the book. Las niñas no están interesadas en cantar hoy. The book says hoy. I ran out of room. So the girls are not interested in singing today. That's the translation. Okay, here you can see that this participle has not only been made feminine, okay, interesar is an AR verb, so it should take this ending, ado, but it's made feminine because niña is feminine. It is also made plural because niñas is plural. So in this case, I'm changing it from masculine to feminine, and I'm changing it from singular to plural. It's always according to the noun that it modifies in the sentence. So the girls are not interested. That's the adjective, interested in singing. That's the concept, okay? So that's how participles get used as adjectives. So now I'm just going to go into my book. You're going to have to open up your book and look at the book with me. So, sentence number 2, right here at the bottom, it says, Nunca estoy aburrido en la clase de español. Okay, so nunca means never. Estoy means I am. Aburrido, bored. It's actually a participle that's being used as an adjective. So I'm never bored in Spanish class. Okay, it's the person who's saying this, I'm never bored, must be a boy. Why? Because the O on the end of aburrido tells us he's a boy. If a girl were saying this, let's say Allie were saying that, she's going to say, Mr. Ashcraft, nunca estoy aburrida. She's going to say aburrida because Allie's a girl. Okay, so she'll change that O to A because it's describing her. She's a girl. But we're assuming this is a boy because it has to be a boy because it was aburrido. Okay, next sentence. Los bandidos, that's the bandits, están escondidos en el bosque. Esconder is a new verb, I think, for y'all. So let's write it down. Esconder. It means to hide. To hide. The game hide and seek in Spanish is called escondite. If you've ever heard of the city of Escondido, it means hidden, like Hidden Hills and different cities that we have. So esconder is to be hidden. So los bandidos, I'm going back to my sentence. Los bandidos están escondidos en el bosque. The bandits are hidden in the forest. Okay, so bandidos is masculine, plural. Therefore, the adjective that is bold-faced, escondidos, is masculine and plural. All right, now the bad thing is that because I have no interaction in the class, I may be going like incredibly fast for you guys. But the good thing is that you can get onto this video, I'm making it public, and you can watch it as many times as you want. You can slow me down, you can go back and listen to it again. So be good students, be diligent, and do your best. I realize it's not the best of circumstances. All right, we're at the bottom sentences here with the next to the ant, still on page 199. It says, Juanito está acostado. That is Johnny. Juan is John. Juanito is Johnny. Remember I told you that ito means usually E, like I'm Miguelito, that's Mikey. Okay, Juanito está acostado. So Juanito is laying down. They're putting lying down. Okay, so they use the past participle for actions that are not active. So if you're lying down, that's not very active, so they say laying down. Okay, Pedro está dormido, another one. Pedro is asleep. They use the past, the participle, because there's no action really in sleeping. It's kind of like a state of just sitting there, and the participle gives you that idea. Whereas the gerund gives you the idea of action. So in Spanish, they make this difference. Pedro is asleep. Third sentence, las chicas están sentadas. The girls are seated. They don't say the girls are sitting. They say the girls are seated because there's no action in sitting. And last one, el pastor está parado. The pastor is standing. Parar. We have learned, I taught you guys this. I taught you that parar means to stop. Okay? It also means to stand. I know, right? Confusing. Yeah. Okay? Usually they don't say that. At least in Guatemala, they would usually say, está de pie. That means he's on his feet. That's how they usually say he's standing. But parado, because it can mean stopped or standing, they avoid it because of that confusion. So in any case, you have the sentence, el pastor está parado. Okay, I'm gonna look at activity 2. You have activity 2 for homework. And it's telling you in the directions, watch for agreement. What does that mean? Your adjective needs to agree with the noun that it describes in number and gender. That means pluralize it if you have a plural noun and feminize it if you have a feminine noun. Okay, so for example, number 1 says, la profesora mira a los estudiantes con los libros cerrados. Okay, so cerrar means closed. And libros is books, so it says the teacher is looking at the students with the books closed. So book cerrado modifies libros, doesn't modify any other noun in the sentence. It's not that the kids are closed, it's not that the teacher is closed, the books are closed. So you have to use your logic with these sentences to figure out which noun the participle is describing from the adjective. So since libros is masculine plural, the correct answer is, I'll give you the answer number 1. The correct answer is cerrados. Okay, number 1. Now if you get that wrong on the homework, quack for you, because I gave you the answer. Okay, so you're going to have to do number 2 through 10 all by yourselves. Okay? Now, activity 3, la familia Lozana está en la sala. Oh, you just read this and you pick which picture is correct. Okay, so in there you have a few participles. Okay, you might have to look up words. All right. So for example, you've never seen the word in activity 3. You've never seen the word reclinado. Reclinado. So you're going to look this up in the dictionary. Guess what? You're not going to find this because this is a derived form. This is a participle. You're going to find the infinitive. So you're going to find reclinar. Now, reclinar means to recline. Should be able to guess that, I would hope. So that's what you're going to find, but you know how to do your conjugations and make it into a past participle. So it says in there, Rosa y Pablo están reclinados en el sillón de la madre, second to last sentence. So you can just, figure out what all that means with your dictionary. So activity 4, okay, you are going to write the question and then answer the question. So question number 1 says, ¿Estás cansado ahora? Now, if you're a girl and you're doing this homework, please don't say that you're cansado. If you're a girl, you have to be cansada. Okay? So please pay attention to that. All right, let's look at the past participles. We have some new verbs. Okay, on page 193, in the middle of the page, we have encender. They've given you only the participle, but you can deduce the infinitive from it. You should be able to go forward and backwards in your brain easy enough. Encender means to turn on, as in a light switch or a computer. Encender. Apagar means to turn off. Again, a light switch or a computer or something like that. Even a car gets turned on, encendido, and turned off, apagado. Quebrado means broken. From quebrar, we know that verb. Quemado is burn. I don't know if we have that verb. I don't think so. Quemar is to burn. Esconder, just gave it to you, is hidden. Perder, we know, means to lose or to miss. Okay, so the sentences are La lámpara estaba encendida. That means the lamp was turned on. Second sentence says, Ahora la lámpara está apagada. Now the lamp is turned off. El espejo está quebrado. The mirror is broken. ¿Qué vamos a comer? La carne está quemada. What are we going to eat? The meat is burned. Los animales estaban escondidos en la casa. The animals were hidden in the house. Wow, what are the animals doing in the house? El dinero de la señora está perdido. Okay, this one's tricky. The money of the lady is lost. What's lost? The lady or her money? The money is lost. So you make it masculine singular because dinero is masculine singular. Okay? So on activity 5, you're going to have to translate and figure out what's the best participle to put. So like for number 1, it says, Hace calor en la casa, el aire acondicionado. So that means it's hot in the house. The air conditioning is turned off. That's the logical answer. Apagado el aire. Singular masculine. Apagado, singular masculine. So you're going to have to figure out the rest. All right, well, that concludes the lesson. And so thank you, Matt. Thank you. I hope you guys can listen to it 2-3 different times so that you can understand everything, because I'm sure I went really fast. So we'll catch you tomorrow on another YouTube video.